Look at these two glasses of red wine. From the outside, they look identical, but the liquid on the left costs $15 a bottle, while the liquid on the right costs $1,500. It is natural to assume the difference comes down to biology. The expensive bottle must simply be made from superior, much tastier grapes. But biological grape quality alone cannot account for a 10,000% price markup. Fermented grape juice, no matter how perfectly grown, hits a physical cost ceiling that reaches 4 figures. The true driver of that price is an invisible architecture of value. It is a strict combination of extreme real estate scarcity, deliberate agricultural inefficiency, obscure tax laws, and calculated psychological manipulation. To understand why the normal laws of supply and demand do not apply to fine wine, we are going to track the economic receipt of a single luxury bottle, from the dirt it grows in to the table it is poured on. The first massive cost of fine wine begins right here, in the dirt. These walled boundaries dictate exactly where a prestigious wine can and cannot be made. This chart shows the massive disparity in global vineyard valuations. Generic agricultural land barely registers on the baseline, but plots designated as Grand Cru in Burgundy, the highest classification for vineyards in the region, can cost upwards of 7 million euros per hectare. Buying a bottle from these specific acres effectively covers a fraction of the producer's mortgage on a highly regulated, finite geographical monopoly. Before a single grape sprouts on the vine, the bottle is already burdened with the massive capital cost of its own right to exist in a prestigious zip code. To push quality higher, luxury winemakers use a technique called green harvesting. They physically cut off and throw away perfectly healthy grapes, forcing the vine to focus all of its biological energy into the few remaining clusters. This low-yield philosophy completely rejects modern agricultural efficiency. Mechanical harvesters can clear an entire acre of standard commercial vines for about $100. Fine wine requires meticulous hand-picking. Instead of utilizing machines, human workers carefully inspect and snip each bunch, a process that multiplies the cost of manual labor to over $750 per acre. By intentionally choosing the slowest, most labor-intensive methods of farming possible, fine wine artificially inflates its own base price. Moving from the harvest into the cellar, the raw materials continue to add up. Aging the wine requires specialized vessels, and a single new French oak barrel carries a price tag of up to $3,600. But the most expensive ingredient in winemaking is entirely invisible. It is time. This diagram illustrates the IRS UNICAP rules. UNICAP stands for Uniform Capitalization Rules, a tax code that requires manufacturers to tie both direct and indirect costs to the value of their inventory. Under these rules, a winery cannot expense its daily operating costs. Instead, every dollar spent on labor, utilities, and insurance gets capitalized, stacking up inside the ledger of the aging wine. This creates a brutal multi-year cash flow drought. A winery needs millions in working capital to keep the lights on and the temperature controlled, while the product sits immobilized for 18 to 36 months. A dusty cellar is a financial trap. The immobilized capital violently drives up the final retail price before the cork is ever placed in the bottle. If we add up the rational costs of rare land, intensive labor, and capitalized time, we hit roughly $150 to $200 a bottle. What explains a $1,500 or $3,000 price tag? This chart shows the Veblen effect, an economic phenomenon where demand for a luxury good actually increases as its price goes up, because the high price itself signals status. At the highest here, wine enters this symbolic economy, and standard supply and demand breaks down. The catalyst for this irrational pricing is often a perfect 100-point score from a professional critic. That single metric instantly transforms a beverage into an exclusive status symbol. Then there is time elasticity, an economic concept where consumers pay a premium to avoid the wait for a product to reach its optimal state. Ultra-rich collectors will pay massive cash premiums simply to bypass the 10-year wait for a younger vintage to mature. At this ultimate tier, a bottle's price completely detaches from its physical production. It is priced according to its ability to signal extreme wealth and exclusivity to anyone who sees it. This pushes fine wine into its final evolution, an alternative financial asset class. It operates on a strict mathematical scarcity mechanism. Every single time a bottle is uncorked and consumed, the surviving bottles of that vintage become exponentially rarer, driving their financial value even higher. Look back at the receipt we just built. The final price tag holds the cost of the rare earth, the manual human sweat, the immobilized capital, and the Veblen prestige. That $1,500 price tag secures the ultimate luxury of consuming a piece of vanishing history.